It's something. I mean, a pretty honest interview, man. And, you don't usually hear guys talk that heavily about their family and stuff, but obviously that's a priority to him. And I think he's just being honest. He's saying, like, he's the kind of guy where if he's going to do a job, especially a big kind of, important job like being the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs, I imagine he dives in head first, both feet, and goes hard at it. And I bet you that that is very difficult on his kids and his wife because I bet he's a ghost for 8 months of the year.
Yeah.
And in order to do that again, I think that he genuinely needs to take some time off and say, how much is that affecting that situation? Um, and are we willing to do it again? He flat out said, "I'm not going anywhere else." That's pretty interesting. He showed his hand in that. So I guess Toronto's got to decide: do we want this guy to be a GM or do we go find somebody else? And personally, I think I'm on Team Dubas as far as him being a guy that can get the job done. I think that he was a little bit misguided in his identity of this team. I think he went a little bit too heavy on, offense and, in return softness. And maybe they need to readjust that. But as far as putting names on paper and making the calls and getting the deals done and the trades and the acquisitions and the signings, I think he's as good as anyone out there. And I don't believe in making changes for the sake of making changes. I think it's because you know what you want and it's different than what you have and you go out and you get it. So in my mind, Dubas, I don't think he should go anywhere else. I hope they have a talk about what their team identity is and what it takes to win a Stanley Cup and what playoff hockey is like and where they've fallen short. And I hope they adjust accordingly. But as far as unloading him and going to find a new guy, I just think, oh fuck, now we're kind of starting over. And this new guy that comes in is going to want to put his fingerprints on the team and it's going to want to be his DNA and he's not going to want to ever say that it was Dubas's work that got the job done of it. He's gonna make some big changes and it just feels like, oh man, it feels like we take a big step back if we fire Dubas and hire some other unknown man
Yeah,
or
to me,
woman.
you got to keep him. And again, this will come down because he is a free agent, and he did go on to say that it's going to be Toronto or nowhere else. Like if he doesn't re-sign, he'll take a step back. So he's like, don't expect me to pop up elsewhere. I know the rumors have been there with Pittsburgh, so those were laid to rest. But for me, I think the big thing is how much he hinges upon Austin Matthews' future. I mean, it's quite clear, dude. Listening to the remarks, the players believe in Kyle Dubas, whether it was Morgan Riley yesterday or Mitch Marner or Nylander or Austin Matthews. And I think if it means re-signing Austin Matthews, I think you have no choice but you bring Kyle Dubas back. And to your point, I don't think he's done a bad job. I just know that it's a business and it's a results-oriented business, and the results haven't been there. Regardless of what they say, they are nowhere close to winning a Stanley Cup. They've never been anywhere close to winning a Stanley Cup. Last time I checked, they still needed 11 more wins. So this notion that this team is even remotely close to winning a Stanley Cup is just incorrect at this point in time. I think it's so hard to win in this league. Having said that, I think somebody takes the fall for this, the scapegoat, if you will. I think ultimately, unfortunately, I think it's going to be the head coach. I think maybe I read more into it than most people yesterday, but the fact that Brendan Shanahan did not speak is very, very telling in my world. Very similar to the NBA where Masai Ujiri didn't speak for a couple of days. Then he ended up, Nick Nurse is now gone with the Raptors. So that's my expectation. The other curious thing for me from what Dubas said yesterday was the fact that anything is possible. Like this is the first time under my recollection that he didn't go as far as to say that anybody's safe, and he didn't hold anything back. Like Matthews, anything, and that's the curious thing for me.